Hello, Corey. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
Beautiful. Same here, my man. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Corey, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Corey, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. See, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Corey, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it. And the leaves, they were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Corey, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately, my man, I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it. Beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Corey. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day. And I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Corey that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your insights, your work, the impact your work is having, Corey, and how you are offering your solutions. These stuffs are beautiful. So I've got to say thank you for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Beautiful. So let's get right into it, Corey. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for a few reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Corey, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very crucial to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason, yeah, well, I'm excited to have the incredible Corey on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Corey, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. Want to know how Corey got here. And afterwards, I've got some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Corey, over to you.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and just speak to your listeners and share a little bit about myself, my company, and kind of about what I do on a day-to-day basis. So, to backtrack a little bit, I'm a military guy. submarine veteran. I spent 10 years on active duty, currently a reservist for the United States Navy. And that is kind of where I fell in love with the idea of helping other people. Just serving your country in general is a sacrifice that not many people have the opportunity to do. So there's a lot of pride that goes with that. And I take that very, very seriously, as do other veterans and submarine veterans as well. Sliding a little bit forward, I transitioned off of active duty back in March of 2024. And it was a very, very rough adjustment. As most veterans, it was very, very hard to kind of like find my place because I was trying to fit in instead of standing out like you're supposed to. So there was a lot of internal friction there. And I just really couldn't deal or put the pieces together to make that work. Even though I did what a lot of people do and they lied to themselves, I lied to myself and told myself, man, you got this high paying job. You're exactly where you need to be. You know, you're able to take care of your family. You're able to do all these different things. And for a while, I started to believe the lie. And that was until tragedy kind of struck that that next year, July 2025, my sister passed away from a fentanyl overdose. And thank you. And I didn't have any of the tools that I needed to kind of deal with that. And like most people did, like most people do actually, I just kind of went through the motions and, you know, quickly dealt with whatever needed to be dealt with as far as like setting up the arrangement for a funeral. And then I went back to work. The only difference about this time when I went back to work was I just wasn't mentally there. So my sister's funeral was on a Saturday. I was back at work that next Tuesday, like promptly that next Tuesday. And that's an issue. I didn't feel like I could take that time off for myself at all. I felt like, okay, I have a job to do. I have to be in the office. I have to do that job. Not to go into too much detail here, but I ended up making a few mistakes at work, which ultimately cost me that same very job that I was lying to myself about and telling myself this is where I needed to be. And it kind of forced me to kind of sit down and to find a new career path. Most people would take that time to kind of like deal with a lot of the issues that had arose during those last few months. Like I said, my sister had just died and now I'm jobless. So two very, very important events in my life kind of happened like within a span of like a month from each other. I didn't take any time to deal with any of that. I kind of just, you know, went ahead and pushed forward and tried to find a new job, found a new job. Currently, where I'm at now, I'm the chief people officer of a generator company out here in Richmond. And, you know, again, I started to tell myself that lie that everything was fine. And all of that kind of came to a head in February of this year after my sister's birthday passed. My sister's birthday is on Valentine's Day, so February 14th. And I want to say from February 15th all the way until the middle of March, I don't really have a whole lot of recollection of what exactly was going on. I was in my first major depressive episode and I still didn't have the tools to deal with anything, like nothing. So not only am struggling to deal with this tragedy that I thought that I had kind of worked through. I'm also dealing with work stuff because I just got a promotion and I'm taking over new departments. So it's just a lot of things that were kind of like compounding over each other at once. And during that period of time, like even getting out of bed was just a chore for me. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do was just get out of the bed and try to sit at my desk. I couldn't sit at my desk for more than 30 or 45 minutes at a time without having to go take a 2 hour nap, 3 hour nap. And that just kind of compounded and everything eventually came to a head to where I frame it like this. God kind of shined this light down on me. And I kind of got this overwhelming sense of clarity in the aspect of I didn't want to be in that trench anymore. I didn't want to be in that hole anymore. And that is kind of like the foundation of the cope method in itself. It is built on tragedy, but it's all about perspective and how you can kind of help work through some of those issues that a lot of people tend to bottle up. So
Mm,
quick run through for kind of like my thought process there. So again, I'm depressed. I don't want to do anything. I'm still kind of going through the grieving process, and no one knows how to grieve. No one. You don't know how to grieve until you're in it. And then even when you're in it, you're still having to kind of figure things out as you go. And that was the exact same thing for me. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I have to dig myself out of this hole or I'm going to lose every single thing that I've worked so hard to get. So I started with kind of addressing the obvious. So in the COPE method framework, the C stands for clarity. How do you get clarity? You get clarity by taking a step back and first addressing the obvious. A lot of people call it taking a step back and looking at the whole elephant in front of you. So that's what I did. Obviously, I was depressed because my sister is no longer here. That was obvious. But it was a little bit deeper than that. So within the COPE method framework, after you've taken a step back and you've already addressed the obvious that's right in front of you, you kind of start to dig a little bit beneath the surface so that you can get more clarity. And in doing that, you have to ask yourself those tough questions. And you have to be honest with yourself. No matter what the answer is, you have to be honest with yourself. A lot of people, we will tell ourselves these lies, and a lie is a comfort to a fool. And that's all we're doing. So I had to challenge myself to really just dig deep and ask myself some of those tough questions to get the clarity that not only I wanted, but the clarity that I needed. So some of the questions that I asked myself were, why are you upset? Why are you depressed? Why didn't you reach out when you knew your sister had a drug problem? You have money, you have resources. Why didn't you extend your hand? Why did you not intervene earlier? Why were you so hands off? Those are the types of questions that I had to ask myself to get the clarity that I needed. And I'm not going to sit on here and lie and say that that was the easiest thing to do. It's hard to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself those questions, knowing that the answer that you're giving yourself is nothing that you want to hear. But I did it. It took a few days, but I did it. And I was able to get the clarity that I needed. And I arrived at the conclusion that not only was I depressed because my sister was no longer here, I was depressed because I couldn't go back and fix our relationship. It kind of was what it was. I couldn't go back and make more memories with her. I couldn't do any of that. That is the clarity that I needed. And I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I didn't ask myself those tough questions. Going down to the O in COPE method, the ownership piece, I call it owning the outcome. How do you own the outcome? You put your time and your energy into things that you can directly affect. I couldn't change the fact that my sister had a drug problem. I couldn't change the fact that she died the way that she did. I couldn't change the fact that I didn't go and reach out and offer my hand when she needed. I couldn't do that. But what I could control and directly affect is how I dealt with my emotions. Within the framework, I call it dealing with your emotions in real time. That's basically just acknowledging emotions as they come and dealing with it. Dealing with it now, not waiting 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 days, dealing with it immediately. So that's what I did. Any emotion that came as I was depressed and I was thinking about my sister, I dealt with it. If it was sadness, I was just sad that day. If I had to cry, I had to cry. If I was angry, I screamed, I yelled. I did whatever I had to do to deal with that emotion in real time. If I had a memory that, brought this peace, this calmness, this joy to me, I sat in that as long as I could. And that kind of helped me slowly start to pick some of the pieces together, which leads me to the P and COPE method process. You need a process for how you're going to execute. You need a plan. You need a strategic plan at that for how you're going to do business. For me, I needed a plan for how I was going to get myself better. My plan consisted of direct sunlight. Like I said, I was depressed. I didn't feel like doing anything. So I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, I know I don't feel like doing anything. But if I'm not going to do anything, I'm going to do it outside on it. So the sun just does wonders for like your spirit, your joy, just everything. There's a lot of benefits to just having direct sunlight. So that's what I did almost every day. I had a routine. I would wake up, I would go outside. Even if I sat there for 5 minutes, I'm sitting 5 minutes in the sun. I also changed my diet. I changed my, my diet, my eating habits. I stopped drinking alcohol. Alcohol wasn't helping me at all. It was actually a crutch. And then I also started to lean on the people that actually cared about me. That's the big part. A lot of people will try to shoulder this burden themselves. And I'm no different. Like I said, 10-year submarine Navy vet. We're supposed to be the best of the best, the baddest of the baddest. You feel like you can take over the world by yourself. That is absolutely incorrect. You need a village. You need people that care about you. You need people that you can constantly lean on. So that's what I did. And that takes me to the most easiest part of the COPE method, in my opinion, and that's the E, execute. You just do it. You just do it. You have the clarity. You've taken ownership for the things that you can control, right? You have a plan. You have a process for how you're going to operate. You just do it. A lot of people will spend a lot of time in C, O, and P, but they forget the E. They just don't do it. They get scared. They let fear get in the way of progress. I couldn't let fear get in the way of my progress. I had to make a conscientious choice to wake up every day and battle fear. And I still battle fear daily. I make the decision that I'm not going to let fear guide my decisions. I guide my decisions. And that's what I did with the E part of the COPE method. I just had to do it. I just had to do it. Even if I only took one step that day, that's one step further than I was the day prior. And that's just kind of how I slowly started to pick up the pieces.
Amazing. The Coke method. Clarity, ownership, plan and process, and you execute. I got that, man. I got that. So you've answered almost all of my questions. Okay. We have just two to go. So you haven't talked about the Esta Media Group. What inspired you to create that?
So Esther Media Group is kind of I guess, the baby of the COPE method. So I had the COPE method. It was working for me. I decided to extend it to my leadership team at my day job. And I noticed that I was seeing a lot of improvements within the amount of departments that I run. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book on it. So started kind of thinking and chewing on that a little bit. And then I came up with the idea. I'm like, okay, why not make this a thing? Why not take it a step further? Don't let fear get in the way of progress, right? So that is when I decided to form this company. So Esther Media Group, everything about Esther Media Group is very intentional. You take the name Esther, right? Esther was my grandmother's middle name. My grandmother raised me. So everything has meaning behind it. Everything has intention behind it. Even the colors for our logo. You got purple in there. That was my grandmother's favorite color. You have red in there. That was my sister's favorite color. You have some orange. You have some blue in there. As you can see from the sign behind me, you know, Auburn runs deep in my veins. My sister and I, we were both Auburn fans. So it was a lot of intention behind everything that I did to kind of formulate this group, this company, this business. And honestly, if my sister would not have died the way that she did, I don't know there would be an EMG, because that is kind of the thing that pushed me to kind of do all the types of work that I do, just dealing with that loss. The whole point of EMG is basically a way for me to cope with everything that's going on with me through my work.
So what advice would you give someone who feels stuck or overwhelmed?
So the advice that I would give to someone who feels stuck or overwhelmed is this: you have to measure your success backwards. A lot of people have a tendency to look forward to the end of the tunnel, and that's fine. We all have goals, but you have to put one foot in front of the other to get to the end of the tunnel. You can't let fear get in the way of your progress. For example, let's say you have a end goal in mind and you're at the halfway point. A lot of people have a tendency of looking forward and thinking about what they haven't accomplished. That's incorrect. You have to measure backwards. You may have started here, and then now you're here in the middle and you want to end up there. But if you look backwards, those are your wins. That is the success. No one is really stuck. It's all about perspective. You have to change your perspective. You have to judge success by your standards, and you'll have no problems. A lot of people judge success on one metric, and that's money, which, sure, whatever. If that's your thing, that's your thing. To me, I judge success by my standards. I'm not judging the success of EMG by money. I'm not expecting to make any money for the next 2 years because I'm deeply invested into my work. I judge success by my standards, and my standards are if I'm able to help at least one person that felt like I felt get out of that trench and pick themselves up. That is how I judge success. You have to judge success by your metrics, your standards. You cannot let fear get in the way of your progress. You have to continue to put one foot in front of the other. That's the only way. It's the only way. The only way you lose at this game called life is if you quit. That's it.
Hmm.
Everybody can win, but you only lose if you quit.
On words, correct? No one is really stuck. It's all about perspective. I got that, my man. I got that. And I'm going to take that as a final thought. So, for folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or be a part of your programs, how can that be possible?
So you can follow us on X at Esther Media Group. That's at Esther, Esther, Media, Media, Group, GRP. Also, you can head over to our website, our website, and we have a lot of helpful information and resources on there as well. And that's going to be esthermediagroup.org. Again, that's esthermediagroup.org. A lot of helpful resources on there, a lot of free resources on there. It's the best way to get in contact with me. Also, our X page is another great way to get in contact with me personally as well.
Beautiful. So, that's going to be the end of the show, Corey. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing these days.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man.